Good morning and welcome. Today is Monday, July 8th, 2024, and this is our morning work session. Today our discussion will be regarding an update on the 2024-2028 strategic plan. My name is John Kafalas, Commissioner from District 1, joined by Commissioner Shattuck McNally from District 3, and Kristen Stevens from District 2 will be joining us shortly. We are also joined by our County Manager, Lorenda Volker, and various other folks across the table and in the audience. Lorenda, I'll turn it over to you to cue things up a little bit, and then we'll turn it over to Josh.
Wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner.
Of course.
This is, it's always interesting to report on the strategic plan activities early on because it takes a while for the teams to get formed. And so you will see from Josh's slides that there's a little different approach this time. He's going to highlight in a little more detail a few things that are going on. And I think that might be the trend going forward, rather than just go through the list of everything that's happening, maybe point to some real high points in the strategic plan. So I'll turn it over to Josh, our Director of Performance, Budget, and Strategy. He is overseeing the strategic plan and the teams associated.
All right, thank you. So once again, I'm Josh Fudge, County Director of Performance, Budget, and Strategy. Today, joining me at the table as necessary are some of our objective team leaders and some of our goal leaders, and a couple of them will be coming up to describe some of the specific progress that has been made and also provide any answers to questions should that arise. So as Lorenda mentioned, we'll just walk through the objective team updates. Some have made quite a bit of progress, some are just getting started, and that's okay. We're only 6 months into this process, and then just final outreach and next steps. So beginning at the top with goal 1, resilient, equitable, and engaged community. I apologize, I'm kind of starting off with a curveball here because after the presentation was sent to you, Michelle and I followed up, and there was a little bit of miscommunication on the proposed language that this team would like to change. So this objective currently has 3 sub-objectives. The first and the third one are really related to communicating about this new strategic plan. The current language for 1A is engage the community regarding this strategic plan and its development and what's operational. If you remember, this was kind of that feedback or that commentary back to those who participated in putting this plan together and telling them why the plan has what it has and maybe why it doesn't have some of the things that were suggested. And then the third sub-objective is to develop the internal and external communication plan for our progress this year. And so the team proposes to combine those 2 items because they're really basically communicating about the plan itself. And so that is the proposed combined language would be to develop and execute a comprehensive communication plan that informs internal and external audiences about the development and implementation of the 2024 to 2028 strategic plan. So this is really just combining 2 into 1. Any questions on that?
Of course, Josh. Thank you very much. Commissioner, any questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Josh. This makes sense, and appreciate you bring this back to kind of make it more pragmatic, practical. My question is, one thing we found out from that Strategic Leaders Summit was there's a lot of things that maybe our partners in the community don't realize we're already doing or have been doing and doing well and having success. So I'm curious, will that also be kind of included? Is that kind of embedded or included in this engage the community and the kind of that strategy plan? I just want to make sure. I think that's really important that we help folks know there's some things that they want us to do that we've already been doing, and we obviously need to share that great work. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great question, and that is included in what would be done under this new objective language. So.
Anything else, Commissioner?
No.
Please proceed, Josh.
And then the objective team would also like to change the language for the second sub-objective. So that was really related to communicating what was done in the past strategic plan from 2019 to 2023. Their proposed new language is to develop an external and internal communication strategy to showcase the outcomes from the 2019 to 2023 strategic plan. So Michelle let me know that they just felt this was a little more specific and gives them a little more direction in what they would like to do, but it's basically the same outcome, which is really sharing our successes in the last plan. So if that's okay, I will continue. Their team has met and they've defined process steps necessary to develop this plan, and they've developed a meeting agenda and tasks for the upcoming year. So they are off and running. So continuing under Goal 1, Objective 2, improve.
Can we
I'm
hold a
sorry.
minute, just to make sure? It looks like you all are okay with those language changes, but I would just want to verify that that's the case, because we will update the website to reflect this new language.
Thanks. Thank you, Lorinda. It is important to trust and verify at the same time. Are we good with this? Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, I'm good with it. When you talk about defined process step necessary to develop a comms plan, will we get to have an update on that comms plan? And will that comms plan be on the website as well, or what does that look like? Thank you.
Sure. So what I can do is ask Michelle perhaps to come back to the next quarterly update with more detail on this. She wasn't able to make this meeting today. The comms plan, I think we can both provide, and it will be certainly visible on the website and other communications tools. The website especially, just because I'm kind of putting that together. We'll also have information about the progress for all of the goals and objectives. So long answer short, yeah, I can have Michelle come to the next meeting and brief you on that.
And if I may, does that suggest that there would be opportunities for the commissioners to provide any feedback on the comms plan? And I assume comms stands for communicate. What is comms?
Communications.
That's what I thought. So will we have an opportunity to provide any appropriate feedback?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, over the next 3 months until the next meeting, they're really just starting to develop that. So I think in a quarter, it'll be a good time to get feedback on what they've done so far.
And I think this does meet what we hope to be the goals, which is to tell the story ongoing about the current strategic plan and the work that's happening, especially with our community partners, as well as tell the story about what we did accomplish in the last 5-year strategic plan, because so much work was done that we learned at the Leadership Summit many folks just didn't know. And so telling that story is equally important as telling the story going forward.
And it's also very important that we're recognizing our internal and external customers as far as that communication goes.
Right.
Definitely.
Thank you, Josh. Please proceed.
So for Objective 2, improving accessibility to the county, at our last meeting, we hadn't yet identified an objective team leader for this, and I'm happy to say we have since then. She's Mackenzie Lau, a risk management coordinator in our risk management department. So far, the team has made the most progress on sub-objective 2B, which is related to accessibility, complying with the laws around that. That team has done some great work so far and will be doing more. I know that Greg Turnbull, who's kind of leading that accessibility team, either is still planning to or has met recently with the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Board to discuss what might be part of a policy around artificial intelligence, or I'm sorry, around accessibility. My bad. That's the artificial intelligence one. That's a different subject. The accessibility law compliance team, they are continuing to work pretty much weekly on helping web editors, web owners comply with the accessibility law. There are routine lunch meetings where they can discuss tools and things like that. So, sorry, artificial intelligence comes later.
One moment, please.
Sure, sorry.
I just want to acknowledge that Commissioner Kristen Stevens from District 2 has joined us.
So for Objective 3, maximizing partner relationships, this team, the team members have been identified and will host their first meeting on July 10th, 2 days away. That team wanted to gather more members of the public community partners and things like that, which certainly makes sense because this is all about maximizing those relationships with the county and having the county become a convener where it's appropriate. And so that team will get off and running here on Wednesday, the 10th. Any questions on that?
It looks like we're good to go.
Okay. So for goal 2, quality of life, the first objective is promoting health and well-being for our community. So this team is operating a little bit differently in that the Department of Health and Environment has teams working on sub-objectives 1A and 1B, which are related to the Community Health Improvement Plan. A staff member from that department is on this objective team and will communicate progress that way so that we're not duplicating efforts. There's a separate team that has begun work on the sequential intercept model. The team has identified intercept 0, which is community partners, and intercept 1, which is largely behavioral health, as initial priorities. The team has begun identifying current community support resource providers, what gaps exist among those providers, and who from the community partners should be engaged to confirm those gaps and start to work on possible solutions. And it was also discussed who among the team, including Emily Humphrey, should go to the communities in the county to hear directly from them to learn what resources they have and where they feel the gaps are. This is largely, as I understand it, because many of the partners are Fort Collins centric, and so they want to make sure there are other areas of our county that aren't left out in this analysis. And the team is going to work with law enforcement and the Office of the Coroner to get statistics for those who completed suicide or fatally overdosed without having been engaged in crisis support or other first responder services so that they may tackle that issue.
Josh, thank you. Before you move on to objective 2, could you or Emily provide a little bit more explanation of the term that we've seen a couple of times now, sequential intercept model? That seems like a very fancy term for something that's probably simpler.
I'm happy to turn that over to Emily to provide more detail.
Thank you kindly. If you would, please introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Emily Humphrey, and I'm the Director of Community Justice Alternatives. So the Sequential Intercept Mapping Project is really a project that starts from when an individual is first in crisis all the way through the criminal justice system. And there is 6 intercepts, 0 through 5, that focuses on different areas. We are focusing on 0 and 1 first. And just to give you a little bit of historical background, years ago, right before the pandemic, we received a SAMHSA grant to do this sequential intercept mapping of all of the intercepts. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we had to do it virtually, and we only focused on 3 intercepts. When we originally did the intercepts, Longview was not open. Competency docket did not exist. Peer support did not exist. So we really wanted to start a clean slate and look at enhancing what we've already been working on. So Intercept 0 is the crisis support. When individuals call 988, they go to crisis stabilization areas, things of that nature. And Intercept number 1 is law enforcement. So when 911 is called and they start interacting with someone with behavioral health. The goal during the strategic plan is to do all of the intercepts, but we need to kind of focus small. What we're gathering now is looking at the resources we had back when we started the grant and really seeing if we're missing. What we talked about, it was very Fort Collins centric, and there's a lot of different areas, Wellington, Livermore, Red Feather, what do they have in their community to help them with behavioral health that can stop them from penetrating into the criminal justice system? So that's kind of where we're starting on 0 and 1.
Thank you, Emily. That's very helpful. And presumably when we're doing Intercept 1, where law enforcement may be involved, that would also include a co-responder, mental health professional?
Absolutely, and we've got really good folks on our team, and we're going to be inviting subject matter experts to each of the intercepts to make sure that we're not forgetting different entities that we're not aware of.
Maybe one more question then to see if my colleagues have any questions or feedback, and that is, does the Intercept 1, I know there's some work from the firefighters, Puda Fire Authority, to develop this community-based, proactive, where first responders are, developing those relationships out in the community and even in rural areas ahead of time before to try to prevent crises. Would that involve these folks at all?
Yeah, I was not aware of that. I mean, absolutely it could. So thank you for that information because we can reach out and look into that.
And I can give you some information about that. There's a couple of fact sheets that explain that. And I think Poudre Fire Authority is leading the charge in the fire chief. And I think there's some applicability to the unincorporated parts of the county, but a lot of it's urban, more urban.
I think it would definitely complement
It's
it.
an interesting model. Yes, Commissioner?
Well, first, I know about that model very well because I have folks I know that have been working on that for 4 years with volunteering to get that off the ground. And I do know that it needs some funding because it has also folks who can do primary care kind of analysis and things in the field as well. And so certainly can put you in touch with that. So
That'd be wonderful.
Secondly, so it is a really, it's the mobile integrated healthcare, if that's what we're talking about. It's just really important. So I have 2 more questions, Mr. Chair. If you're using the co-responder program to do that as well, I know we've recently used opioid abatement money to expand that to really work on folks to help with opioid abatement kind of response with fentanyl and opiates. And so I don't know how that intersection happens, but is there any kind of help or work on that to help kind of pinpoint where that kind of interaction or intervention can happen? And it seems that we are more and more using this kind of community public safety model, and we don't, and then that has only doubled because we put that opioid abatement money in to double the crew. So I'd be very curious how that all looks going forward, because that funding source will not always be around. So I'm curious about that. And then, so you want to stop there? I have one more quick question about the familiar faces thing, and I'll explain that here in a second.
Okay. Yes, I mean, what you're saying is absolutely that we are looking into that and kind of correlating and recognizing that those funds will go away. Part of the sequential intercept mapping is we've just potentially written a grant to do data sharing in regards to behavioral health and criminal justice involvement. And so we're really looking forward, if that's successful, to use those dollars to continue that research that we need and to share that information so that individuals in crisis can have outlets rather than just law enforcement.
I think that would be great, and using that data to help with opioid abatement, I think would be critical, so that would be great. And then my last question, Mr. Chair. I was very fortunate to be a part of the Pew Charitable Trust NACO National Association of Counties, sorry, it's a big, long name, Behavioral Health, Intergovernmental Behavioral Health Crisis Summit, and that group. It's a long name. I did not come up with it, but I want to make sure I'm accurate. And we were all sharing kind of things that are happening in our communities. There are a lot of boots on the ground, local government interventions. And they mentioned something about this Familiar Faces program that they're sharing, a different state and municipalities working with you all, as I understood it. And I have to get that name again. But I'm very curious about that, because it also sounds like this is kind of that model of tracking folks that if someone's working with as a counselor or in the system, and their person ends up in a crisis situation or more criminally injustice, like inside the jail or something, that they all get kind of the same notification and more work out of the silos and communicate to how to help this individual. Does that ring a bell with you?
So I'm not familiar with Familiar Faces. I am familiar with Fuse, which is a frequent utilizers that use our systems, and so it's similar to that.
Okay.
But I think what you're talking about is what our dream is. Our dream is this giant data collection so that we're able to provide folks resources instead of coming to the jail. So if their name gets pulled up, we can call their counselor, we can call their next appointment so that they're not coming through the system.
Thank you. That's what I was talking about. Thank you.
Commissioner, anything you'd like to add?
Well, I'm just a question maybe. So with this sequential intercept model, I mean, is this sort of, the work has been done with the mapping and this is more fleshing it out, or seeing what resources that we have to, work on some of these priorities? I mean,
Right. So the answer is yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, in that we've done 3 of the 6 intercepts, but we're even going back and revisiting the 3 that we've already done, recognizing that we've come a long way since COVID. So, for example, Longview wasn't open. Peer support has just blossomed. That was never even included in that. Competency docket did not even exist. So instead of going further down the intercept project where it's in the jails and integration back into the community and community corrections, we hadn't hit that yet. We felt it was really important to go back to the beginning. So yes and no.
And is the goal throughout the whole the life of the strategic plan to be able to work on all the intercepts?
It
then?
is.
Okay.
It is.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Lorinda, anything?
I'll just add that I think this is really exciting work. If you can, by starting at 0, I think you can maybe get ahead of the criminal justice involvement. And our world looks very different than it did when the original mapping was done. It's not wasted work. It's great to build on, but we have an and now, and more information to add about how people access all services. So I think it's really wise to go back and start at 0 and then get through, like you were asking, all of the intercepts, so that by the end of the 5-year plan, there really is work done on each of the intercepts in the community with partners, so that maybe we lead the discussion, but it's not our responsibility. Someone else maybe takes that on, which I think is the model that CJA has really been working on for years.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Stevens.
I would also say to your point that you need to make sure we define that, because that's, nobody knows what that means.
Okay. Good point.
Like,
That is a good point.
as they look at it, as we propose it in, as we put it on social media or wherever we're highlighting these objectives and these goals, that we define it so that it's not, it doesn't seem like, because it's insider language and it's,
It 100% is. I'm more than happy to sit
Thank
down
you.
with Josh and we can kind of wordsmith it.
yeah, just so people know. It's about, health in our community and criminal justice reform, and I think it ticks a lot of boxes that people really want to see, but they might not, just so that's not off-putting for people. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. I think
Thank
that
you.
gets back to our overall value of trying to be more inclusive with plain language on all fronts. So I appreciate you reinforcing that. And I presume, before we move on to Objective 2, I presume that this will have some kind of evaluation methodology so that we know what are the desired outcomes and how we're achieving them.
That's correct. There will be.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You bet.
Let's move on to Objective 2.
Just, sorry, one other piece of, or update for this is the plan team submitted an item to the IT steering committee, which prioritizes projects that IT would work on. And that project was for project management staff to help start putting this together. And that was on late afternoon on Thursday, and the ITSC committee prioritized it pretty high. So that work should be getting started as well. So,
Excellent additional information. Thank you, Josh.
sure. Thank you, Emily. So for
Thanks, Emily.
Objective 2, support an equitable economy. The Department of Economic and Workforce Development has begun work on both of their sub-objectives. The internal county team, made up of folks from 6 departments, has been launched. Somewhat related, EWD is working on a pilot project to encourage purchasing card use by county staff at local businesses. EWD is providing $150,000 to developing a project to develop a child care workforce that will roll out this month. And then they are also engaging in partnerships with the City of Fort Collins Economic Health to target underrepresented small businesses for upskill investments that lead to business growth. So good progress there.
Great.
And then finally, Objective 3, within Goal 2, improving housing stability. The team has been identified and will focus on achieving the goals within Sub-Objective 3A, which is to inventory and define best practices for reentry for justice-involved individuals. They're working to define those terms, and their next step is to conduct an inventory and create a resource map for housing resources available to that community. Sub-Objective 3B will be analyzed during the creation of their Larimer strategic plan to address homelessness. So that is a separate plan from this one. And so that will begin here soon. They've issued an RFP for a consultant to begin putting that plan together. It's funded through a grant from the State Department of Local Affairs, DOLA, which was awarded to the Homeward Alliance with several partners that you see there, municipalities and nonprofits. And then finally, Objective 3C is being addressed through the Climate Smart Group Land Use Focus Team. They are meeting regularly to coordinate regional efforts around land use and encourage affordable housing near transit and jobs. And if I remember correctly, you received an update on Climate Smart relatively recently, so that will also be in Goal 3 as well. Speaking of Goal 3, natural and built environment, for Objective 1, which is addressing current and future transportation needs, as I think you've heard at another separate update, engineering has completed a community survey on transportation needs and funding and has communicated those results. For Objective 2, developing a sustainable built environment, again, this is largely the Climate Smart and Future Ready plan. That was an update was provided at the end of May. The teams are working on those plan-related items and inventorying community air and water quality efforts, and drafting an electric equipment rebate program. Any questions on those two objectives?
Thank you, Josh. Colleagues, any questions, comments, observations? Looks like we can keep moving.
Okay. For Objective 3, to develop a sustainable natural environment, this is another team that has some proposed language. They are tracking current and planned actions across all of the sub-objectives. They have a huge Google sheet with all of the efforts that's quite impressive. They are identifying roles, metrics, timelines, and status of actions. They have completed soil health demos and small acreage management fact sheets in extension, and done a Our Lands, Our Future open space survey in natural resources, and coordinated on disaster network grant in the Office of Emergency Management. For sub-objective 3A, the team is proposing new language. The current language is develop sustainable, cost-effective programs to support parks, open spaces, and rural and agricultural heritage. Their proposed new language is to conserve and steward lands that contribute to community quality of life, protect natural resources, and/or provide ecosystem services through strategic planning and partnerships. And so the objective team leader, Megan Flanagan from our Department of Natural Resources, is here to answer any more detailed questions should you have them.
Thank you, Josh. At the appropriate time, I'll offer a comment regarding a resource that might be useful. Commissioner Shedek McNally.
I guess maybe if Megan's, I just have a question about this language, because this is a very important objective and goal for me. And I'm just curious, I love the conserve and steward lands that contribute to quality of life, which I think is important. Also, protect natural resources, ecosystems, is that I'm assuming that includes all the above: wildlife, habitat, air quality, watersheds, forest health, wildlife corridors, everything. I'm just assuming that's what we're using to cover all of that.
That's correct, yes.
And then also, I'm just curious, we know how important this is, not only for quality of life, but kind of economic, and the reason that is because I was kind of studying this last night, economic driver, economy, recreation, kind of, does that fit here, or something should be mentioned, or do we think that just belongs somewhere else? I'm just curious about that.
I'm looking at Josh because I don't know the answer to that in the context of the greater strategic plan, but that's something we could definitely look at under some of the actions and see if it rolls back up. There's two other sub-objectives on this one as well, and I wonder if it if it may fit a little bit under 3C, which is about efforts towards mitigation and restoration efforts primarily on private land. So it's some of the forest health you were talking about, watershed health, and agricultural land health. And so a lot of the work Extension does and the Office of Emergency Management, and how that may be some financial incentives, but also some economic drivers on those.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that answer, and I know the work that you guys do is so varied in such depth and breadth. It's so important, and it's really a passion area of mine. And I was just thinking about this as we talk about through strategic planning and partnerships. We really have kind of what I call the Larimer way. As you know, I apply that term to a lot, but it's because we do a lot of partnerships that maximize or leverage resources and maximizes the benefit to the community because, people leave, say, Fort Collins to go out and recreate in areas that are out in unincorporated parts of the county. They might, I was just out at Red Mountain and Soapstone was over there, and that's a strong partnership. And so I think folks get confused sometimes when they hear about the 55,000 acres that have been conserved in Larimer County. And then there's also the federal lands or open lands. About 40% of our county is this open space, and a lot of it's federally owned land. So of that 55,000, that is not only owned by one city or by Larimer County. That is a patchwork, or I wouldn't say, maybe a beautifully crafted, woven fabric of projects and partnerships. Is that a true statement? And would that be kind of addressed and kind of shared in this part of the document?
Yeah, that's a great point, because all the lands, the county's share of the open space tax has gone to conserve is, with few exceptions, in partnership with one of the municipalities or state organization, GOCO grant funding, some of the land trusts we work with. So there is some double counting, depending how you look at that. We're up to 57,000 acres today. The city of Fort Collins has a number, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but that probably includes some lands that the county has also conserved. So one of the actions we have identified is similar to the performance metric we share with you all every year, which is that goal to conserve an additional 24,000 acres by 2043, which is when the open space sales tax, the county's tax, expires. And so to date, since 2018, when we were at 50,000 acres, we're looking for 24,000 more acres by 2043. We're about 30% of the way there. So 30% in years, but also about 30% in acres. Got about 7,000 acres since that time.
Great. I think that's an important point to make sure everyone understands that this great effort to preserve and conserve things, really important landscapes and lands for lots of different reasons, is not one. It's really kind of all of us working together. So I appreciate you, Megan. Thanks for answering my questions. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner. My colleagues to the right, do you have any questions, comments, observations?
I'll just make one comment that I was at the Extension meeting last week, and Jessica was talking about the soil health demonstration, which I think is really, there's a lot of interest in it, and somebody came all the way from Alamosa to attend that. So it's not only interesting to the people in our community, it's definitely interesting statewide. People are wanting to know how to do that work better. And then I think Jessica's actually has some kind of farm tour that she's going to highlight farms that are doing this work, 2 in Weld County and 2 in Larimer County. I'm not sure the date of that, but just that there is a lot of interest in that space, so I wanted to share that.
Thanks, Commissioner. Lorinda, anything? Then while you're at the table, Megan, just to offer a resource. And this overlaps with our goal objective related to accessibility, but in the recent issue of the Nature Conservancy magazine, I don't know if you get that, there's a really good article about a trail that was developed, I think in Wisconsin. It's more urban, but how they did very specific things to make it accessible, and it's gotten 7 times the usage. And I wonder if something like that, if I can pull that article out and bring it to you or share it with you. Is that something you and Dalen and your team would like to see?
Oh, please, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
I can do that. Thank you.
So again, let me confirm, are you okay with the language change? Because that's what will be reflected on the website.
Yes.
I'm okay with the change if those other, that item about talking about how it's also economic. I heard numbers, I can't, off the top of my head, I thought it was $200 million or $20 million a year, something. It was a large number where it drives, so I'm just curious if it's spelled out kind of inside the down, because I think that's important for folks to understand too. Not only is it important for our mental and physical health, which National Geographic just had a really great study on that, but also how it's important for our economic well-being, because a lot of folks come here to learn and also to recreate. So just, if it's spelled out down later, I think I'm okay with the language. Thank you.
And on that point, I'm reminded that I recall from my earlier involvement with NOCO Places 2050, I think one of their subcommittees looked rather extensively at the economic benefits of preserving open space and access. There might be some information there.
Yeah, that's a great resource for us to take a look at, and I think we can work it into the action items below, because we also talk about some of the ecosystem service return on investment down below as well.
So the question on the table, yes, Commissioner Stevens, are you okay with this direction?
Well, the only thing about the proposed new language is that it doesn't, my concern is that in taking out some of these words that people understand, people love the open spaces, they, hearing from people that the rural and agricultural communities sometimes feel left out. I guess I have some concerns about removing that. I think we still mean that we're going to take care of those spaces, but I guess my concern is in removing some of that people might not see their needs met in this new language. Does that make sense? Do you see what I'm saying? Is that, like, by saying we're going to change language that says we're going to support rural communities or rural heritage or ag heritage, I'm worried that people might think we're not going to do that work, I guess. That's my concern.
Yeah, if I could just add, we summarized it a little bit here, but we gave what would be in that new language after, let's see, natural resources or provide ecosystem services. We have in parentheses, water and air quality, biodiversity, agricultural viability, carbon sequestration. We give a bunch of examples that still are inclusive of that value. So making sure we included all the values that we conserve land around, wildlife habitats, natural environments, agricultural lands.
Okay, so that will be included, it's just not included right here. Okay, perfect, yeah, I don't want people to think, oh my gosh, now they're not going to, they don't care about these issues. But thank you for explaining that.
And just to reinforce that, as I hear the conversation and I look at the term ecosystem services, it's sort of up there with sequential intercept model language. So it would be I think in terms of plain language and all of that, it would be helpful to spell it out that we, preserving our rural agricultural heritage is critical and all of these other things and the economic benefits and all of that. Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. Thanks to both of you. Anything else, colleagues, before we move on? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So the final goal is Goal 4, County Operations. The first objective team to optimize county is working on optimizing county processes and systems, has made quite a bit of progress. Our objective team leader, Julie Elser, is here to provide more detail and answer any questions, but at a high level, as I mentioned earlier, the artificial intelligence team will involve the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Group in an early draft of artificial intelligence-related policies. They will also develop an AI-related Zoom channel for interested staff so that county staff can see what's going on in this area. The Community Indicators and Performance Measures team is going to work on drafting categories of indicators and measures and bring to a future work session to make sure that they're on the right track as far as measuring those things that are important sort of how much detail and what have you to go into. So look for that at a future work session. The support services team is going to work on surveying the department heads group to get an idea of how they feel about the services provided by support services and identify gaps and areas for improvement there. And then finally, the security-related team is going to prioritize updating our county policy on security personnel. This policy was drafted, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, and has some areas where it doesn't really reflect what is actually happening as far as security goes. Some of it's confusion. Some of it refers to a position that probably shouldn't be in charge of certain security-related things. So that team is going to focus on updating that policy really to sort some of those things out. So if you have any questions or more detail, Julie would be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Josh. So regarding the artificial intelligence team and the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Advisory Group, have there been any preliminary conversations? And if so, there may not have been yet, but if so, I'm curious, what are some takeaways from those preliminary conversations? If there have been, I don't know if you guys have already met a little bit. Would you identify yourself for the record, please?
Sure.
Ms. Julie.
I'm Julie Elser, the data program manager here. We have not yet met with the EDI board, but in creating the strategic plan, they met with them, and they made it clear that they did want to be involved in this objective.
Thank you, Julie. Lori,
Yes, just to follow up on that.
who are you?
I'm sorry, I'm Lori Cadridge, and I'm the Assistant County Manager. And I did meet with Julie and the objective team about how could the EDI board participate in this objective. And then during our last meeting with the Equity, Diversion, and Inclusion group, we did discuss could any individual member, would they like to participate right on the objective team? Or did the EDI board as a whole want to be updated? And they agreed to both. And so I've forwarded one of the EDI board members' names to the objective team leader just this morning, so Julie would not have even seen it. And if they're able to do that with their work schedule, they'll participate right with the objective team, as well as having the objective team update the board as a whole.
Great, thank you. That's helpful information. Thanks to both of you.
And can I add, Mr. Chair, that
Yes.
this group is really concerned about the same kind of things we're all concerned about. We don't want to have any sort of artificial intelligence tool that has built-in bias. We want it looked at from a lot of different angles. We want to make sure we learn from mistakes other organizations have made. And so that will be sort of the key to keep checking back in with the EDI board. What are we not seeing? What are they concerned about? What have they seen in other systems that we might be aware of and have a greater awareness around as we go forward with artificial intelligence? We know that it's happening, it's a thing. Google search does it for us every day. And so we have to figure out how to safely integrate it with some safeguards.
And it just so happens that the EDI board member who volunteered to assist with the objective, this is what he does for a living. And so he has some expertise and experience in doing and creating these kinds of systems that he could lend the county if need be.
Great. Thank you all. Good conversation. I think we can move on.
Thank you both for your help with that one. So the final two objectives under county operations. Objective 2, coordinate and collaborate with partners and stakeholders. Those team meetings have started. They have created subgroups for 2A, which is centered around coordinating with our community partners on grant opportunities. 2B, which is focused on co-location of services with community partners. And then 2C, which is actually the facilities master plan. So those efforts are underway. And then with Objective 3, supporting and developing leadership, that team is going to survey the Senior Leadership Committee to get some baseline data on belonging, comfort with employees' training experiences. Those are a couple of issues that team has identified already through their work and some of the prior countywide employee surveys. So work for both of those teams has begun. Any questions on those?
Questions, comments, observations, colleagues? It looks like we can move to the last slide.
Final slide, the website has been updated, and we will provide another update to that strategic plan document with the language changes that you've directed us to make today. Other plans and efforts will continue to be added to the page and will be promoted through that communications plan as well. We do have project management software that we're going to use to track progress for all of these objectives. A kickoff meeting will be scheduled for hopefully early this month. It took a little longer than we thought it would to get that purchase completed, but we are ready to get going with that. And the nice thing is we will be able to create basically real-time graphs that the teams can use to update the progress and then show those on the website as well. So that will be a big improvement over the prior plans and how we showed progress towards those. And then this will probably stay on this presentation throughout the life of the plan, but some objectives may continue to evolve as teams meet and learn and really see what's out there and what can be achieved. So that is the end of my presentation for today.
Well done, sir. Colleagues, do you have any questions, final thoughts? Anything else you'd like to add? I do have a question when my turn. Yes, Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, we have a lot of great folks in the room, directors and service area directors, and I just want to say thank you all. This is really important work, and I know this are all above and beyond duties as assigned, so I always like to point that out, that this is a chance for staff and working underneath you all or working with you for them to kind of develop some leadership and helping lead these teams because they're really boots on the ground. But also you are all helping steward these goals, and we have seen with the last plan that we just accomplished, there's some great work that has happened, and that's another reason why I want to showcase, kind of explain to the public and our partners all the work that has been done. I just want to thank you for your work and your diligence, because this is really kind of exciting to see this next phase and how, because there's some really interesting and new things here that are really, I think, going to be helpful to the county, but also could be a con, like AI could also be something that I have a lot of reservations about that I think we need to kind of get ahead of. So I really appreciate that work. And so my question is, well, first, my heartfelt gratitude, job well done so far. My question is, how has this, there's the old plan, everyone kind of got used to it, knew it, and now we have this new plan and some little tweaks and things. How is the energy? What's the questions? Are people excited? Do they see anything that resonates with them that this feels like they're excited about, and this is what they feel like matches the work that they're doing or would like to see the county go? I'm also trying to get that feedback from the folks that are working with you. Thank you.
I think a lot of the teams, a lot of the members are pretty excited to move forward. It's always hard with something like this where the objective language can be somewhat broad because we don't know exactly what we're going to be creating. And so sometimes there's a lot of, where do we start? How do we even begin? And that's what's happened in some of these first meetings. But in general, as you can see, they're starting to make progress already and starting to learn things that are going on. I will say, from my perspective, I had no idea that a lot of this already was going on, and I've learned a ton just helping to coordinate all of this. So there is a lot of excitement, and hopefully we can keep the momentum going. So thank you for that.
Colleagues, anything, Commissioner Stevens?
Yeah, I just want to add my thanks to everyone who's been working on this. I do think that there's some great work that's happened here, and I really appreciate the partnerships, both the external partnerships where, we're finding people in the community who can help us do this work, and the internal partnerships, because there's a lot of overlap in what we do in these different departments. So I think about Extension, for example. Extension is also looking at ways to, work with, to create more community and to help with social isolation issues. And so it's interesting as we dig in that there are multiple people doing similar work, and that, building on that work is the best way to kind of get things done. Is like, we don't all have to, one department doesn't have to be responsible for some of this work, right? I mean, even with community justice, for example, we're talking about working with the sheriff's office, working with, partners in the community, working with that we've done work with Extension. So I just am grateful for us, trying to figure out ways to do this efficiently, and some of it is just really working together. So thank you for the work, and we'll look forward to our next update.
Thank you. And my question, Josh, is, well, first of all, a couple of exclamation points to the words of appreciation that have been expressed. So I wanted to put that out there. And my question is this, regarding the website, and recognizing that this goes back to goal 1 about communicating, how are we marketing the website? Are we still figuring that out? And how do we track how many folks engage with the website, the strategic plan website?
That's a really good question. I think we're still figuring that out because, as you've seen, some of these things are kind of changing as we get started. So fortunately, I sit right next to Michelle, and so I can work with her pretty closely on, how do we market the website. I think keeping it up to date is a big part of it. And maybe, we should let everyone know that it has been updated with new language, and every time we do that, it's a good time to maybe refresh that effort. So I think as they put their communications plan together, you'll start to see it marketed much more. And I think that's good because, like I say, we're just getting started and some of these things are changing, so we don't want to confuse people, so.
Yeah, no, thank you. I would offer that in this case, redundancy probably has some value, and periodically reminding people of the information that might be available that would be useful to the public. So thank you for that response, Josh. Was that a hand? Oh. So why don't we close out with some pearls of wisdom from our county manager?
I guess I'll just close with, we have 3 tasks I documented. We need to update those descriptions that you all have said you support change. We need to define better the sequential intercept model and make it a little less lingo-driven. So if that means we have a parentheses, or if it means we have maybe more description down below, we need to do better with that one. And then Michelle and her team will return with their communication plan for you all to weigh in on. And I wonder if there are opportunities as we make progress on each of these action steps, maybe to do some sort of a spotlight that draws people back to that website. That's a simple thing that we already have at our fingertips, and we're making better and better use of that now with Jordan on our team. So I think those are our 3 follow-ups as I got from you all. Josh, I think I heard you say Michelle would come back at the next quarterly update, but if it's ready sooner, we could certainly do something along the way.
Great. Thank you, Lorenda. Thank you, Commissioner colleagues. Thank you, team. At 10:52 a.m., we are adjourned.